Have you ever wondered how the political systems around the world shape your daily life? Politics isn't just about elections or debates on TV. It's about the air you breathe, the job you hold, and the freedom you cherish. Did you know that in some countries, more than 70% of the population lives under authoritarian regimes? That's over 5 billion people. And while democracy is often hailed as the ideal, only 45% of the world's population lives in a truly free society. Shocking, right? Here's another mind-blowing fact. In oligarchies, the wealthiest 1% control nearly 40% of the entire nation's wealth. This massive concentration of power can lead to significant social and economic inequalities. We'll dive into 6 fascinating political systems and how they affect your everyday life. We'll explore how democracy gives you a voice, how authoritarian regimes control you, and how oligarchies favor the few. We'll uncover the local focus of federalism, the equalizing aim of communism, and the traditional wisdom of tribal governance. Stay tuned as we uncover surprising facts, real-world impacts, and the hidden truths of how political systems shape everything around you. Ready to explore? Let's jump in. Chapter 1: Foundations of Freedom, Unpacking the Democracy. Democracy often lights up our imaginations with ideas of freedom and collective decision-making. It's based on a simple yet powerful principle: rule by the people. In a democracy, every vote has weight, and every voice can echo through the halls of power. But how does this impact you personally? For starters, democracies tend to have higher levels of personal freedoms. According to Freedom House, countries identified as democracies are more likely to uphold freedom of speech, religion, and the press. This means you can express your ideas and beliefs without fear of government retaliation. Isn't that a breath of fresh air? Economically, democracies often flourish because they foster environments where ideas and commerce can thrive. The World Bank notes that democratic nations see more stable economic growth compared to their non-democratic counterparts. This stability can translate into job opportunities and economic security for you and your community. Education in democratic societies also receives a boost. Democracies invest in education because an informed electorate is a cornerstone of a functioning democracy. This investment means better schools, more qualified teachers, and more educational opportunities for everyone. But it's not all sunshine. Democracies can be messy. With so many voices and opinions, decision-making can be slow. Have you ever wondered why some laws take so long to pass? That's democracy in action. Every angle and perspective is considered. In essence, living in a democracy means living in a society where you have a say in your future. As Lyndon B. Johnson once said, "A man without a vote is a man without protection." Democracy offers that protection, making sure that no one is left unheard. Chapter 2: Power Play, the Intricacies of Authoritarianism. Switching gears, let's talk about authoritarianism. It's quite the contrast to democracy. Here, power is concentrated in the hands of a few, or even just one, which significantly shapes daily life and personal freedoms. In authoritarian regimes, the government tightly controls almost everything, from what is shown on TV to what can be discussed in public spaces. This control extends to the internet as well. Many authoritarian governments heavily censor online content. According to Reporters Without Borders, countries like North Korea and Eritrea have almost no press freedom, impacting not only journalists but also the general public's access to information. Economically, authoritarian regimes can show rapid growth. Think of China's economic boom. However, this growth often comes at a cost. The lack of transparency and accountability can lead to significant corruption and inequality. The rich get richer, and the poor? Well, their voices are often silenced. What about personal security? While some argue that authoritarianism brings stability, this stability can come with high personal costs. Amnesty International reports that in many authoritarian countries, government critics can be arbitrarily detained without trial, sometimes disappearing without a trace. Yet, some citizens may feel a certain level of predictability in their day-to-day life under authoritarian rule. There's often less debate about laws, which means quick decisions and swift actions. But at what cost? As the saying goes, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Understanding these dynamics helps you see the stark differences in how political systems can shape your world. Whether it's the freedom of a democracy or the control of an authoritarian regime, the impact on daily life is profound and personal. Chapter 3: The Rule of Many, Exploring Oligarchic Overlays. Oligarchy may not be as well known as democracy or authoritarianism, but it's just as fascinating. In an oligarchy, power rests with a small group of people. This could be based on wealth, family ties, or military control. The intriguing part? It's not just about who rules but how their decisions affect everyone else. In many cases, oligarchies are shaped by the rich and powerful, who prioritize their interests over the general public. This can lead to policies that benefit a select few while leaving others out in the cold. Think about it, when only a few people decide what's best, how often do they consider everyone's needs? Economically, oligarchies can be challenging. Since the elite hold significant power, they often manipulate economic policies to safeguard their wealth. This can stifle competition and innovation, making it tough for new businesses to break through. However, oligarchies can also bring a certain level of efficiency in decision-making. With fewer people at the top, decisions can be made quickly without much debate. But, remember, this efficiency might not always be in everyone's best interest. Education in oligarchic systems often reflects the disparities in power. Schools in affluent areas might have more resources and better facilities, while those in less privileged areas could lag behind. This perpetuates a cycle where only the elite are prepared for leadership roles, maintaining the status quo. Despite these challenges, some argue that oligarchies can provide stability, much like authoritarian regimes. But at what cost? As Plato pointedly criticized, oligarchy naturally arises out of democracy, and the most aggravated form of tyranny and slavery out of the most extreme liberty. Chapter 4: Unity or Division. The dual faces of federalism. Federalism is a system where power is divided between the central government and various regional governments. This division is designed to balance control, preventing any single entity from holding too much power. Sounds good, right? But how does it play out in real life? In countries like the USA or Germany, federalism allows states or regions to tailor laws to fit their unique cultures and needs. For instance, while one state might prioritize environmental regulations, another might focus more on industrial growth. This flexibility can make policies more relevant and effective at the local level. Economically, federalism supports diverse approaches to development. Different regions can experiment with economic strategies that best suit their local environments. This can lead to innovative solutions that might be overlooked in a more centralized system. However, federalism can also lead to discrepancies in resource allocation. Wealthier regions might have better services and infrastructure, while poorer areas might struggle to meet their residents' needs. This uneven distribution can exacerbate regional inequalities. Education under federalism reflects this diversity. Each region might have different educational standards, which means the quality of education can vary significantly across the country. While this allows for localized educational approaches, it can also lead to disparities in educational outcomes. Ultimately, federalism offers a mix of autonomy and unity, but it requires careful balance and coordination. As James Madison explained in the Federalist Papers, the power delegated by the proposed constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. Chapter 5: Utopia or Dystopia. The vision of communist governance. When you hear communism, you might think of slogans about equality and workers. It's a system where ideally, everyone would have equal access to resources and opportunities. In theory, it sounds like a formula for harmony, right? Let's take a closer look. Communism focuses on eliminating class distinctions by distributing wealth and power equally among the population. The government often controls major aspects of the economy, which means private ownership is limited or non-existent. But what does this mean for everyday folks? In communist systems, everyone is supposed to have access to jobs, healthcare, and education, without the hefty price tags. For example, in Cuba, healthcare is considered a fundamental right, provided free at the point of service. This ensures that no one is denied medical care because of their financial situation. However, while the aim is to provide equal opportunities, the reality can be different. Some argue that in trying to make everyone equal, communist systems sometimes suppress individual freedoms. Freedom House reports that countries with communist governments often score low on political and civil liberties. Economically, communist states can achieve rapid industrialization and infrastructure development. Take the Soviet Union during the mid-20th century, it transformed from a largely agrarian society into an industrial powerhouse. However, this growth often comes with significant government control and little room for personal enterprise. Education in communist countries is typically state-controlled, focusing on promoting state ideologies alongside academic subjects. While this ensures uniform education standards, it can limit exposure to diverse viewpoints. Despite its goals of fairness and security, communism often struggles with efficiency and innovation due to its centralized nature. As Friedrich Hayek once critiqued, the curious task of economics is to demonstrate to men how little they really know about what they imagine they can design. Chapter 6: Tribal Governance, Ancient Systems in the Modern World. Tribal governance might sound ancient, but it's still very relevant in many parts of the world, including parts of Africa, the Americas, and Oceania. These systems are deeply rooted in community and tradition, emphasizing social bonds and collective responsibility. In tribal systems, decisions are often made by consensus or through a council of elders. This means everyone has a voice, and decisions reflect the community's values and needs. It's about working together, not top-down control. These systems can be incredibly adaptive to local needs. For instance, in many Native American tribes, traditional ecological knowledge shapes how they manage natural resources. This deep understanding of the environment results in sustainable practices that benefit the entire community. Economically, tribal governance can support communal ownership and cooperative use of resources. This communal approach helps ensure that wealth is not concentrated in the hands of a few but benefits the whole community. It's about shared prosperity. However, integrating traditional tribal governance with national political systems can be challenging. Issues of sovereignty and autonomy often arise, as seen in the negotiations between Native American tribes and the U.S. government. Education within tribal systems often involves passing down knowledge through storytelling and community involvement, which helps preserve cultural heritage and strengthen social ties. This method emphasizes practical skills and communal values over individual competition. Tribal governance shows us that different doesn't mean outdated. As a leader of the Maori people once said, "The land and the people are one. What happens to one, happens to the other." This connection to community and tradition can offer modern societies valuable lessons in sustainability and social responsibility.